Welcome along. This is one of those West London VR route previews. This is the Coastal Loop on Velo. Velo at the time of making this video is relatively new, but taking the world of e-racing, virtual racing online by storm. It really is an easy to use and very likeable platform. Lots more to come from it at this stage. These are the early days, and we're running races every Monday. And the next one, hence this preview, will be the Coastal Loop. At the time of broadcasting, obviously you might be watching this later and the race has passed. So here we are on the Coastal Loop. Now it pretty much does what it says on the tin. I'm afraid there's no getting around this. Only 41 metres of climbing. It very much is rolling around a coastal perimeter on an island, a big loop, 16 kilometres, 10 miles, and most of it by the beach like this. Where it does clock up some metres climbing is it just goes inland very, very slightly, and if you say you look ahead you can see that the land rises out the sea, so when it goes inland it rises a little bit. Gradients not going much above 2% at any point, so very difficult to sort of plot and plan how you would attack on this, and certainly in the second half when perhaps you might be looking to distance yourself from rivals, it might not really lend itself to attacks on slopes, so you're going to have to think through some other strategies, maybe attrition on the front, and just to see who can stay the pace on this flat, but if people can tuck in behind you then it's kind of wasted effort. We shall have to see when this is actually used as a race. Now there's no bots in our races, but you can see I've just casually gone on to do this, just got home from a club ride of 100 kilometres, and before I took my kit off thought I'd run this one over, cast this under my eye. So you see those little white streaks, that tells you the wind direction. You can also tell if you look at the top right hand left, you can see the box in the top right hand left hand corner, you can see the arrow showing where we are on the road, and just to the left above that you can see a little arrow with the wind speed, 3 kilometers per hour, and the wind in a southwesterly direction. It kind of moves, I say southwesterly direction, the wind is relative to where we are rather than the compass, so of course when I say the arrow is pointing southwesterly, you can see it's now pointing southeasterly and now southerly. What it's doing is turning with the rider as they go round the curves. Now looking at this view here you can see that there's plenty of bends, and it will go round these bends because it's hugging the coastline, and that's what coastlines do. Obviously it's not a platform that requires braking. There's a degree of automatic braking in the corners, thankfully, to go through another one of those little wind lines. It's only there to tell you which direction the wind's going, but as I say, you can have a look up top anyway. Still 3 kilometres per hour, so it's not great. As I say, the braking on these corners is not going to be too significant, because you can see they're nearly all sweeping bends, just rolling around this coastline. It's going to be very difficult to add a lot over the next 14 kilometres as we head towards the 2 kilometre mark, because it's pretty much a coastal race. As I say, it's bot free on our races. A couple of riders with me here. I've got a feeling that the one in the bright purple and red kit that we've just gone past is actually a real rider, is my guess. I think that may well be a real rider. The one next to me, I'm in the blue and white and pink. The one next to me in the green and brown is definitely a bot, I would say. I just don't think that's a real rider. Cosmic Little with the St George's flag of England. I'm not sure that I know too many people in England called Cosmic, so I think that one is probably a bot. Anne Schultz on the other hand with the Austrian flag. Schultz sounds Austrian to me, and she isn't wearing Indy Velo shorts, so I've got a feeling that she might be a real rider, which is great, because she'll want to sort of kind of work around taking turns on the front, I guess. Just on the front now with these two riders, whereas I think Cosmic Little's probably programmed to do so. So we'll treat Anne as our new Indy Velo friend for the day. She's sitting on my back at the moment, but I think she quite likes taking turns on the front, as she used to go round me on the inside of this bend. Looking at the light shade on this, it looks like kind of long evening shadows, isn't it? And I say that the earlier part of the race was a little bit darker, and there were stars at one point, and what looked like the Northern Lights, or some sort of I suppose version of that. I've never seen the Northern Lights, so I don't really know what they look like, but there were some colours in the sky earlier on if you were looking when we were in the first couple of kilometres. As I say, I've never seen the Northern Lights, so I don't know whether that is fair to say that those little colours are a sort of version of that. The only opportunity I have ever had to see them was just when I finished riding from Land's End to John O'Groats, which, if you're not from the UK, is about as far as you can ride in the UK. So it's from the bottom south-west corner to the top north-east corner of the UK. Other in Scotland, I got out to John O'Groats, and they said it's the Northern Lights tonight. And as much as I could stare out the window, I could not see them. I'm guessing it was too cloudy because apparently it was definitely a Northern Lights day. But I don't know how they operate. Maybe they just weren't visible from John O'Groats that day. Nobody else in the village locally, in the place where we were staying, was remotely interested because they see them all the time and couldn't understand what all the fuss was about. But obviously, having just ridden all the way across the UK from one end to the other, I probably didn't stay up long enough, perhaps. We'll never know. Anyway, you can see the weather's brightened up here. When you set the races, you have the option to mix between night and day. Our races are, at the moment at least, all set to daytime races. I'm not really sure we particularly need a nighttime version of them, but it's another great facility from Indie Velo. One of the great things about Indie Velo is the kits they offer, and Anne Schultz's kit, actually quite dazzling, isn't it? That bright red and that purple, along with the orange hair. I'm not sure if it represents anything, but the options and kit picking is one of the good things about Indie Velo. Now, you might argue you don't go on here to just show off your kit, but one of the things that I think I never liked about Zwift was nearly all their jerseys, just not to my taste, I'm afraid. Don't want to upset anybody at Zwift. I did that the other day. Bumped into some people from Zwift and said, I don't really use your platform, and here are the reasons why, to which they were most surprised, but nevertheless they acted very well, and they took it very well with decorum, and you can't fault the way they took the news, shall we say. Now you can see the split roads coming up here. Now, despite the fact I've put in Coastal Loop, so I'm casually riding, so I still get the choices even though I've put in the loop. So if I'm not choosing anything, it will take me around the Coastal Loop, but if I suddenly decide I've had enough of that, I do get the choices. In the race, you won't get that option. Just interesting to see the peloton going back the other way on the other side. There is a reverse Coastal Loop option on Indie Velo, so you can do this course the other way around. Those big pelotons, of course, probably denote some sort of race. Most of them will have lots of bots in. We are definitely running our races as bot-free races, so there'll only be real human beings in them. Maybe, I say that without being picky, if we do film it, we may need to put bots in, but the bots there won't be racing. They will be at the back, not interfering with the race, as opposed to the bots that we don't have are the ones that get involved in the race. Now, you can say what you like about it, but we just made the decision we'll have bot-free races, but we do think that the bots in Indie Velo are actually quite good, and it does work. And I'm not critical of people having bots in their races at all. I think it's just fine. If you want bots in your races, the bots on Indie Velo are the sort of bots you want, and that's absolutely great. We just made a decision that we won't, and as I say, it should, if you're an individual who has a preference, that's entirely up to you. As I say, I think we quite like the idea that you're always racing against a human. It's personal when you're racing, etc. But it does have to be said that if somebody hasn't got many riders in their race, filling it out with bots is a great way of making the race realistic and exciting. Now, I've got one real life person and one bot in front of me, enjoying the draft at the moment. Indie Velo, I think from listening to most people, I think people are finding them one of the most realistic experiences on the online platforms. I mean, I have to say I have for some I have some platforms I prefer as opposed to others. See the gradient here, 1%. I'm just wondering whether that might or might not have an effect on the little group of 3 we've got here. You can see we haven't gone far inland, but we're just up. You can see, if you look further ahead on the course to the right, you can see the slope down to the coast. So we just kind of raised the elevation a little bit, and that's caused us to do a little bit of climbing, but nothing above 1%. We've done nearly 6 kilometres now, only 14 metres of climbing, and as I say, I don't think that the gradient's going to have any effect on any of the races we run on this coastal loop course at all. So sitting in Anne Schultz's draft at the moment at 1%, just edging in front, doing my turn. You can see we're quite elevated from the sea now, 17 metres of climbing. It's not particularly clocking up many metres quickly, but 17 metres, 18 metres now, still with that 1% climbing. And you can see if you look to your right, not quite cliffs down to the sea, but we're getting quite elevated away from the sea. 6.2 kilometres into it, and we've done nearly half the climbing. So with 41 metres of climbing to do, 19 done, and still not even halfway, about 1.5 kilometres to go before we're halfway. We should be, as I say, over half the climbing in the first half of the course, which doesn't leave you many attack points in the second half of the race on a 1 lap race in this. 9.5 kilometres to go, and 20 metres climbing done. And you can see how raised it is by just looking at the drop down into that little inlet from the sea there. As we go round the inlet, you can see that geographically the road's gone up to go round that inlet and then come back to the coast naturally. It will involve, I suppose, if we're going to end up at the beach again, it will involve, of course, drops downwards as we get another one of these choices, high road or low road. Now I was a little bit surprised when I first saw this, because I assumed, being a coastal race, that we would take the low road along the coast, but it seems to have selected high road. So I saw this low road dropping off here as we stayed on the high road. Now this doesn't really affect us, I think, overall, because if you look at this, we're at 0% gradient. You can see we'd get a little drop down to the low road, which is going closer to the beach on our right. So you would have got a little drop down there. But remember, this is a coastal loop, and we are going to end up on the coast at some point again. So whatever drop you got there is surely going to come later. So I don't think it makes a lot of difference. And if you look at the 2 roads, they're parallel. So I think the fact we're on the high road there is nothing that's really going to affect the race, because obviously these things will even themselves out sooner or later. And 7.3 kilometres gone, and look what happens. We drop down, we now get the -1 descent, -3 descent, -4 descent, -5. So a nice little bit of speed up here, and we join the low road. So back where we were on the route with everybody else on the coast. We've done 24 metres of climbing and still aren't halfway. Remember, this is a 41 metre climb race. Another bot goes around us. I was interested in this one because it's Helen Woodward, a very English sounding name with a Belgian flag. Helen bald as well. I'm sure there are women who shave their heads. A little bit surprised to see it on the Indy Velo. Bot, nevertheless. So I'm pretty convinced this one was a bot. Interestingly, look at the colours. Indy Velo colours, eh? So I think we'll put that one down as a bot, I'm guessing. And if there is a lady called Helen Woodward living in Belgium who's bald, I do apologise. Very fetching it is too. Just pushing ahead a little bit now as we go round another rider. You can see the gradient -1%. So getting the advantage of this. Won't last for long, because you can see the beaches coming up. And we're soon going to be down at sea level again as Helen comes back and goes past us on that beautifully Mavic coloured bike. that she's riding. So here we are, back down to beaches, and on the flat, 26 metres out of the 41 done, so it's 15 metres to climb in nearly half the race. It's absolutely nothing, and we've got 7.6 kilometres still to go. So I think this is really going to be about speed, and I mean, if you are able to sit in somebody's draft for a long time, it's fantastic. If people are going to attack off the front and you need to chase them down, I think both parties will burn matches, but I think that's the likely thing that will go on. People will look, attritionally drop people out of little groups and thin the peloton down across the race. I'm not particularly riding as fast as the race will be on the day. I mean, sort of hitting sort of mid-30s kph. On the day, this is going to be much faster race, and sitting in the peloton or sitting in a bunch is going to be quite key. I think if you get outside of bunch, it's going to be a lot harder work to maintain the sort of speed that I would expect to see on this course. I'm doing 35 kph without particularly putting a huge amount of effort in. I'm not, kind of riding in racing conditions. I'm not casually riding either, but nevertheless, I expect it to be faster than this in the front groups on the day. 9.2 kilometres done, nearly up to the 10 kilometre mark. We're down at the beach, but we've got a 1% gradient climb here, and that's, if you look again, the beach is now making way for something like a bit of a bank and a rise out of the sea. It's not quite a cliff, or maybe you could call that a cliff, just on our right there. Not very high, but we go over that lump and we can see sand ahead of us again and get a -2 descent. So making use of these descents will be quite key. I think they're not tremendously steep, but if you can add a bit of speed and just catch somebody out and get a little bit of a jump on them on some of those descents, might be worth looking out for. On the other hand, if you're sitting on the back, don't let anybody do that to you. Just keep an eye out for when the gradients are coming. The bottom half of the screen, as you can see, we get another one of these junctions. We can go to the velodrome, which is slightly inland and I assume uphill, or we can go to the south coast. I accidentally pressed the button for velodrome there and realised my mistake. Changed it just in time to go back onto the coast road. As I was saying, if you look at the bottom has the grey profile across it. You can see where the rider is with the little arrow pointing there towards the bottom right. It gets obscured by the power data that's on the left hand of the screen, which gradually works its way across. Obviously the red bits are where I'm putting in more watts, the light blue bits the weakest, and the greens in the middle. So yellow's somewhat less than green, but less than red, but higher than green. So we're up to 10.3 kilometres, just 5.5 kilometres left. We've passed the 10 kilometre mark, and as I said at the beginning, not a lot has changed. I mean, we've done 33 metres climbing, so we've only got 8 metres climbing left in 5 kilometres of racing. So read into that what you will. You can see by the profile at the bottom, we've passed the last big lump. There are a couple of little blisters at the end there that might involve a little bit of pushing to get up a gradient, but don't expect anything too harsh. This is now going to be about your speed and cadence. Just getting overtaken there by one of the bot riders. I assume it's a bot rider, Jerry Nelson. Jerry Nelson doesn't sound overly I'm going to assume that's a Chinese flag or something, but whatever it is, Jerry Nelson doesn't sound like he comes from the Far East. So just understanding that the bots are of different standards, which is great, because I think there's something for everybody, and nice to see sort of fast bots and slow bots, so you find the ones that suit you. 11.2 kilometers to go, just 4.8 left as we bundle on. Only 6 meters of climbing left, so very little is going to affect the race in terms of terrain at the moment, and as I say, we're stuck really on this coastal road with the beaches, which has always been I suppose the message we're giving you, that this is going to be about cadence and speed and staying in groups if you can. If you get dropped off, I think the speed at the front will be quite harsh, and you'll be very lucky to get back in. Suffice to say that if you fall back into another group who are strong enough to work together, that might work in catching a group ahead, but I don't think anybody is going to achieve this that's solo. Of course, if you are riding solo, it is the draft effect that's going to affect your ride. I'm riding solo here, hitting to about 35 kph, reasonable cadence. I'm not a fast cadence person, so don't read too much into that. What's probably a little bit below what I might be doing in a race, but it depends on whether you're in the in the group. I mean, these watts in a group, and I'd be going a lot faster. So I think the actual race is going to be a lot faster than this. If you can get into a group, fantastic. If you're riding solo, then it'll be down to your own natural ability, and I'm probably capable of a little bit more than this, but this is a comfortable speed for me. 1% gradient, the watt's just going up a little bit and the cadence going down as we go over this. One of the things that we don't see a lot of on Indy Velo yet is buildings. I mean, the landscape is great and it loads very quickly and all the rest of it, and when I'm cycling, perhaps the buildings aren't the most important thing. Most of it is countrified. I would expect this to change as Indy Velo evolves, but you will see me focus the camera a little bit on the buildings because there aren't too many of them as we come up to another one of these rustic buildings on the coast there, obviously out because there's no car parked outside. Into the last 3 and a bit kilometres. The scenery isn't really going to change a lot now between here and the end. It's going to be beachified. I've got Esteban Sloan about to catch me. I'm guessing this is a bot again because it's got the Esteban sounds a very sort of Spanish name, but we have the Austrian flag, so I'm kind of guessing I'm about to be overtaken by another bot. That's fantastic. I would be very grateful of this if I was just doing a session, because when I got overtaken, the first thing I would probably do is try and get on the wheel of Esteban as he goes by in that bright gleaming purple and a pair of Indy Velo shorts. We are very nearly at the end, just 2.8 kilometers to go. Right, 2.7 now tells us. Go past another couple of riders sporting the one on the right anyway, sporting Indy Velo colours. As I say, it's I think the way the riders behave, it's not easy without sort of looking at the names and wondering whether they match the flag. It's not easy to spot who's a bot and who's not, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about Indy Velo. You don't need lots and lots of people to have a great ride. The bots work, they're good bots, if that makes sense. Again, I reiterate that our races that we're organising will be bot free. That's just the way we'd prefer them, but we are quite impressed that when you go on for one of these casual rides like I'm doing, the bots are actually quite good and add to the experience, so all good in the hood, we'd say. So take what you got and settle for a bot, or just accept that they are part and parcel of the casual riding, and flip over on a Monday evening at 7:30 to Monday Malarkey races run by West London VR on the Indy Velo platform, bot free, as I say. No bots in the races other than camera bots if we are recording it, but that doesn't count, does it? So you can see still sandy, deserted beaches. I've got pictures of you all reaching for the travel brochures, and the travel agents say, can I book that beach where there's nobody else there, because it looks fantastic. I have to warn you, loads of cyclists keep going by it, so you might get a little bit of noise from them. Lots of shouts out for pothole, or on your right, on your left, coming round, and so on and so forth. I wonder if one day these platforms will have all those little shout outs that riders do, warning them of impending danger, etc. Getting ever closer to the finish, 1.5 kilometres to go, not very far at all. It's still hugging the coastline, as we said at the beginning, and the beach is absolutely deserted, which is great if actually you could go there and be on those deserted beaches without everybody else, but I doubt if many of us will ever be in that position. Coming up to 1.3 kilometres to go, 1.2 kilometres to go. We should see the finish arch very, very soon. It can't be too far away. Just got to sort of go around these little inlets though. If you look at the map in the top right hand corner, above the green bar that shows us how much of the course we've done, that is the course. You can see these little bends as it hugs the course, hugs the pastimes, and hugs the coastline even, and consequently sort of weaves a little bit, but again 0% gradient. We've done 40 metres of climbing. It's scheduled to be 41, so in this last 900 metres, apparently we're going to go up 1 metre, which I think probably suggests it's going to be or seem like it's pan flat. Into the last 700 metres, and somehow or other we've just done another metre, so it must be very gradual. That's your 41 metres. We've done the climbing. We're 600 metres from the finish. At some point soon the finishing arch is going to come into view. It's on the coast, but we're not seeing it immediately because the coast is weaving, and as I say, it's the camera's not got a sort of straight line view to the finishing line. Hopefully as we get around this headline, we'll see it come into view. Just 400 metres left of racing, so you're not going to see the finish very clearly when you race it, and there's only one lap, so it's not like you can work it out in the first lap so that you recognise it from a way out on second. The best way to work out where it is watch this video that we're doing now, or go and ride it yourself, because the Coastal Loop is a standard course that you can pick, so you can go and pick that out on Indy Velo and test it out for yourself. 100 metres to go, and we haven't seen the arch. There's the arch, we can see it at last. So you don't get to see it until the last 100 metres. Fairly flat going into it, and nothing too much to worry about. 0% gradient, but nevertheless, getting your timings right for any sprint, you need to watch the data, because it's not going to be obvious from the screen. So that's about it. Thanks very much for watching, and if you race it, good luck.